Hello, boys and girls. Today, we shall be investigating your brains!
The central nervous system.
The central nervous system is the center of the entire nervous system. It consists mainly of the brain and the spinal cord, which are both full of closely packed neurons. The brain and the spinal cord are protected by three things: bony cases, which are the skull and vertebral column, membranes, which are known as meninges, and finally, a fluid cushion called cerebral spinal fluid. Meninges consist of three layers of membranes. The thick outer layer is called the dura mater. The next layer is called the arachnoid, which is anchored to the next lower layer called the pia mater by its thread-like extensions. The pia mater is molded around the brain. Cerebral spinal fluid fills the space in between the layers of the meninges, as well as the internal cavities of the brain. Cerebral spinal fluid is important for shock absorption, supporting the brain, and nourishment of the brain and removing waste.
Parts of the brain.
It consists of many different parts. The midbrain, which relays information between the spinal cord and cerebrum. The pons, which is the bridge between higher and lower brain centers, and also controls sleep and wake cycles. The medulla oblongata, which is the center for heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing. The cerebellum, known as the little brain, controls balance and posture and stores memory of learned motor patterns. The cerebellum contains all the sensory areas for vision, hearing, olfaction, and the skin. It contains motor areas such as voluntary movement, and association areas for interpreting sensations, language, thinking, decision-making, self-awareness, creativity, and the storage of memories. It's just all that bumpy, groomy, wormy stuff that you just see and feel in the brain. The thalamus, which processes all sensory information, which then sends the information to the correct brain centers. It's basically the switchboard of the brain. And finally, the hypothalamus, which controls heart rate, blood pressure, breathing rate, body temperature, and food intake. It regulates specific body functions like hunger, thirst, sexual arousal, and is the link between the nervous system and the endocrine.
The lobes.
The brain is also separated into lobes and have their own specializations. The blue section of the picture contains the frontal lobe, which holds the premotor cortex, frontal association area for problem solving and abstract thought, and the primary motor cortex. The brown section of the picture contains the parietal lobe, which contains the primary sensory area and somatic association area. The yellow section of the picture contains the occipital lobe, which contains the visual association area. And lastly, the red section of the picture contains the temporal lobe, which contains the auditory association area, understands language, and hears things. As in
Motor and sense.
the primary somosensory area runs along the parietal lobe, stretching from one side to the other, and receives information from the skin telling it touch, pain, and temperature. The amount that the somatosensory area covers depends on the sensitivity of that area, like the tongue and hands take up a large part of the cortex, while the forearm does not. The primary motor cortex sends signals to the skeletal muscles to control voluntary movement. It wraps around the frontal lobe right in front of the somatosensory area. The larger areas of the cortex are taken up by finer movements like that of the tongue and fingers, while less finer movements are needed for leg movements. So therefore, the leg takes up
Hemispheres and neurogeal cells.
The brain is separated into two hemispheres, a left and a right. Each side receives sensory information and each side controls the opposite side of the body. The left hemisphere controls the right side of the body, while the right hemisphere controls the left. There is a thin outer layer of each hemisphere of the brain called the cerebral cortex. There are two types of neurogeal cells on the cerebral cortex: gray matter, which is unmyelinated axons, and white matter, which is made of myelinated axons. Myelinated axons are faster than unmyelinated axons.
Sleep.
Everyone needs sleep, no matter who they are. One reason why our bodies need sleep is because our bodies run sleep cycles.
Sleep cycles are set by the various time cues.
For example, darkness releases a hormone called melatonin that brings on sleep.
Another reason why we need sleep is that the longer that we are awake, the more that we need to be physically restored by sleep. It takes roughly 1 hour of sleep for every
2 hours of being awake. There are 4 stages in sleep, but after the 4th stage, you enter what is known as REM sleep. You enter REM sleep every 90 minutes.
In REM sleep, messages from the brain's motor cortex are blocked at the brainstem. The muscles relax and you are unable to move.
Well, I think that's enough for one night. I've actually stayed up all night to finish this. Sleep catches up. Good night!